Hello, thank you for joining me today. Before I start the reading, there's a couple things I wanted to share, and I might, depending on how verbose I am, I might just make this its own separate reading, or its own separate video. But basically, so see if I can get this all out. My last video, I just, if you watched it, you would have noticed that I just cut it off, like right at this certain point. Like I was just saying that about the light and the dark and the balancing of the light and the dark. And so the reading was going this completely different direction that like I just couldn't land. Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is not about that. It's about what happened after and about magic. I like to share magic and synchronicity, and because it's inspiring and it's a good energy, and so that's why I'm doing this. And then there's more that comes from that, right? When you tune in, when you pay attention to when something like that happens, then there's like a whole package that can open, that you can open, and that's what happened for me. So anyway, I was sharing how I had this like huge unveiling that weekend, and I was just kind of overwhelmed, and then I was starting to go into, I feel, which had to do with the energy of what was coming through for me over that weekend, but it wasn't integrated yet. It wasn't integrated, and I was tired, and I couldn't land it. So I just stopped it. It was like, that was a whole reading in and of itself, and like, we'll just cut it off. But what's amazing is the very next morning, and so my daughter and I, we don't, I'm out of breath. We don't live together. We see each other on the weekends. I go down to where she is, and occasionally, once a month or so, she'll come up to where I am. But during the week, we're separate, and I don't have, internet, so we can't change videos. We never know what each other is sharing, until the weekend. So she had no idea what I was talking about, and she wouldn't have known anyway because I cut off that portion of the video, But the very next morning, I discovered, later on, she was talking about the very thing I was trying to land, and okay, so, and my brain's going like this because there are so many things that I want to say about that. And one is noticing the magic in that, and the telepathy, and like the channel that we're both tuned into that's coming through, where it's like, oh, she couldn't do it, so we'll give it to her. Right? We'll give it to her, because then her next reading was also about that, and her and I kind of working on the same energies and the same themes as mother and daughter, and part of the same lineage, and of course, right, But it was really beautiful and magical, and then, and then also a further reflection is, well, of course, she was the one that could land it, and so this reflection on how our children and the younger generation are the ones that are the cutting edge of consciousness. And if they have somehow maintained a connection to their soul, or came in connected to their soul to be in service, they're really able to pull through the cutting edge concepts. So for me, that like has to like, like work really hard to bust through a certain level, for her, it's she's already integrated in that, where she came in integrated in ways that I didn't, and of course we've all observed, I would hope that we've all observed that what was really hard for us seems really easy for our children, and so yeah, and just honoring that and drawing attention to the fact that the young people have something to teach us, and they have something to say, and the gift of listening to them, and I had that from my mother. Like, my mother would always listen to me, and she still does, and I can go on and on and on about things that I know are outside of her framework of experience, but some part of her, like her soul and her heart, can hear, because I'm speaking soul and heart. And so I've had that my entire life, it makes me want to cry, from my mother, and what a gift that was and is to be seen and held, and even if you live your lives in completely different ways and you make different choices, it's like in that heart space you can speak the same language, and you can feel held and seen. And so I've always done the same thing. I'm getting choked up. I've always done the same thing for my daughter. I just listen to her. And sometimes, sometimes she pushes my limits, not in terms of like boundaries, mother-daughter boundaries, but in terms of my consciousness, where she'll be talking about something that I haven't like integrated or moving through within myself. And it will kind of like, I might find myself bristling, or I might find myself like having some sort of like judgment or wall, but I always pay attention to that because it's like, she's on to something, she's on to something and she's seeing further than I am. And so I always listen when she speaks and I challenge myself. I might say, I've expanded enough. I need a break. I need a break. I need a break. And I've seen that, with my mother as well. I can tell when she's kind of like, oh, I'm tired, and I've gotten better at being like, okay, we don't need to go there. But, or with other people where, they just like need a break. And that's how I feel with my daughter, with Arame, where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this from the other side, and just honoring the people that can stretch us, but realizing that our children, if you ever listen to even like a very young child talk and they say things and it's just the mouth of God, and if you have children and you haven't connected, you don't have a relationship with their magical self at the moment, like it's never too late, or even maybe they don't have a relationship to their magical self, but just like when we pay attention, like if they're in an emotional mood or they're breaking down or they're in a dreamy space or they're really happy and you catch them in that flow to like really, really listen and nurture that and honor that and entertain that and allow it to change and inspire and challenge you as well. And and then what are we doing? We're busting outside the boundaries of our lineage. We're birthing and co-creating with our children and our parents if we can, and then we're healing our lineage together, whether we know it or not, because we're stretching and we're growing in that space of consciousness. And so I just wanted to reflect on that because I realized that is, and it's like, what's the lineage of the blue rose? What is the blue rose? It's the feminine, it's the soul, it's the intuition, it's the she in us that remembers and that is speaking loudly, and to lean towards that and to honor that and to nurture that within your family line, to make that a priority, to preserve that, through whatever negation you may have experienced in your life, or abuse or whatever, to keep that spark of the divine feminine alive and to pass it through and to nurture it. And and just to speak for that. So that's just what I'm doing right now, and to honor the younger people. And if you are a younger person, say, so I'm 47, so if you're younger generation, teenager or whatever, and you don't have anybody to listen to your soul speak or to your heart, just know that there are people and there are adults who would absolutely want to hear that and honor that and acknowledge that. And so your far out thoughts or your crazy dreams, or like you might not have anybody around you that can hear. You might even have people that are, again, negating you or putting you down or whatever. Just hold on to that within yourself, journal it, dance it, paint it, just keep it, believe in it, because you will meet people that will receive that and join in you in that, and you can co-create in that space. And maybe even if you're an adult and you don't have that, just keep knowing that you will, because we magnetize in what we give our attention to. So the more we give our attention to our soul life and to our intuition and to those cutting edge thoughts that might actually make you feel kind of crazy, like, oh God, I can't go there, that might be crazy. It's like, no, just keep going. You're just at a threshold. And you're feeling the wobble of your old self, but just keep breathing and trusting that it's going to flesh out. You're going to acclimate to that new terrain where we keep pushing the borders within ourselves and pushing the borders within our lineage, and healing and growing and bringing more soul onto the planet by honoring it and being it. And so anyway, thank you for listening. How long did I talk? I talked for 9 minutes. So I'm going to leave this as a separate video. And yeah, I think I'm a cheerleader. I'm a cheerleader for the soul. I'm a cheerleader for the feminine. I'm a cheerleader for co-creation. And yeah, so that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Okay.